Hi and welcome to episode, 13? 13 I hope, of Every Semicolon. So this episode probably not going to be too long, but I was looking at the animations for the ballista and looking at its structure, and I think it's been updated since what we've got in here. And the new animations and what's there seem to be probably enough for now to get going on getting it shooting, getting the different power stuff going, and also then maybe trying to get the tilt in as well. So I'm going to update the ballista FBX with the latest. So what I'm doing here is just going to grab from Dropbox the latest ballista FBX. Alright, so now we'll go to our ballista prefab, drop one of those in again, and we'll just swap out this ballista object for the new updated one. And I believe, yeah, I'm pretty sure there's a different hierarchy structure there. The new one. Yep. You can see some difference in the arms, but the rest of it looks the same, so I'll delete that. Also, there's some animations. Now, what I've done is, see if I can find where I actually did this. I put together a little script which I've used before. I just grabbed that, and once I find where I put it in a different project, okay. So I've got a couple of scripts here. I'll throw them into the project. So what these are import scripts, so post import scripts. So I'll do a quick look at these, but won't show them off too much. Not really that overly. They're the sort of general scripts I use. Basically, the idea is that they post import scripts. So here is a basic asset import processor, inheriting from the asset post processor. So this is what I've just called it that. And I've got an on pre-processed model, and what it does is it tries to find a file with the same name as the asset path, the FBX they were importing, and with a .text at the end. So it replaces the extension of the assets, in this case .fbx, with a .txt, and if that exists, then I have this class here, model import settings, which reads that file, and it will insert the import settings into this model importer. So this is on pre-process. So then at this point, all the import settings will be set to what's in that text file. So the text file I'll put together now. Just find my other example text file. Okay, so here's one I put together for the dwarf. I'll throw this into the ballista. So this is the animations.txt file that Shane's put together for the ballista on Dropbox. So what I'll do is just grab these, I won't bother explaining all of what all these things are, but basically these map back one-to-one with the FBX import settings that you'll see in the inspector when you select an FBX asset. So you can see here, just delete that. So I'm going to rename that file to ballista.txt, and then I'm going to drag that into my ballista folder for my project. Okay. Now with these new scripts in here, these post import scripts, what will happen is my ballista, when I re-import him, he has these animations here, and he has all the scale factor 1, all these various settings which you can see were the same as what was in the text file. So I had the mesh settings, normals and tangents, materials, animations, and so forth. Materials, animations, animation compression. So that's the reason for doing it this way, right? If you're working on a project yourself and mainly controlling all this stuff yourself, then it's not really that important. Generally, it's not a big deal. You can set this stuff up and it just stays the same. You don't have to worry about it changing when you're bringing a new FBX. But why it's good, I feel, to do this on a team project is you can have an artist put their stuff into the game, into the engine themselves, their copy of Unity, and get all the settings tweaked right and set them up in this text file, so that when it's brought into other people's projects, you don't need to have metadata there that's got all these settings correct, and it doesn't need to then persist across changes and that sort of thing. You just have this one text file that says this is how it's going to be, and no matter what happens to the FBX or what machine you use it on, if you've got the post import scripts and that text file, then it will import with all the correct settings. So what's happened here? We did see when we re-imported it, the color changed. So I lost all my materials. Where were the materials for this ballista previously? It looks like they had different names. So I'm not sure if the ballista materials, the names actually changed. It looks like they did. 08 default and ballista wood. Alright, what happened here is I might have, by models material, where previously it was by texture. I actually prefer to do it by material, which makes it the same as how it is in say Shane uses 3D Studio Max to do the modeling. So in 3D Studio Max, the models will have a particular, the materials have a name which then carries across into Unity using that setting. So that's the setting I've got set in the text file. So that's cool. But so what I'm going to do now is go in, and I think what's happened here is we saw it in the preview of my ballista. There's a little reference node there which might be visible. See if we can just find that. There it is. Right. So Shane will have to remove that in the next export he does. Basically what that is a little bone being exported as geometry. So just in this case a spindle bone, and none of the others. So I'll let Shane know about that, and you can make sure that's not included in the next export. So what I'll end up with is these two materials. Shane might want to rename this one. Ballista wood is fine, but this one's still got a default name. So what I'll do is, see, I'm used to having a lot more scripts But I don't want to overwhelm this project at the moment. I normally have a material property copying script, but for now I have to stick with just doing it the slow way. I could have actually done these at the same time. Keep forgetting about multi-object editing in 3.5. So what were these settings? Gloss, and I didn't actually change the gloss and the shininess and stuff, so delete those old materials. The ballista bolt, change it to from models material as well. Yep, apply all that. And now my bolt can be reverted. Nope, it's not. That's not the right bolt. Bugger. All right. Let's delete that whole blister again. Find this bolt, revert that. Right, so the bolt that's there is not. That's weird. Don't know why that was. Okay. There we go. And I'll put the bolt in now. Even though we will be removing the bolt, we'll be removing that at some point and replacing it with a system of, as I mentioned in the last episode, piling up bolts into the ballista as they're fired, one after the other. If that made any sense. Okay, I'm after the bolt anchor. Okay. Cool. Alright, so now what we've got is some animations on this ballista. So let's have a look at those. There's the chute. So looking at that a bit slower, you can see it just fires off. The whole thing moves off the ground a bit and a lot of force behind it. That's pretty cool. And we have a reload animation where you can see the arms being pulled back, the this little spindle turning, and this arm here, which yes, that's going back too. So the challenges I'm going to face, and I'll just move this up from now to have a look at it. The challenges I'm going to face with this ballista, in the animations, and what I'm going to try and deal with in this video is I want to be able to adjust the amount of power. So the way a ballista would work, you would think they would only pull it back so far to to limit the power. So say I wanted that to be max power, and say that to be minimum power. What I'm going to have to do is that's fine. I can interpolate between here and here, or whatever I set, here and here, based on the power setting I desire. But what becomes tricky is the chute animation, which is obviously starting from this position, i.e. sort of max power, and then in one frame goes to this point, and from there, and there is maybe some movement of the no, that's cool. So the ballista doesn't move in those two frames besides the launcher, whatever we're going to call it, the launcher bone, and the arms. After that, it does its little jump and flings off, straightens the arms out. So what I think I'll do is I'll make that max and this next frame here, that the minimum power shot. So what I'll have to do is figure out where on this other animation this point is. Should be around there or whatever, and make that the minimum, and then let between that point and this, and then that will give me like my percentage, or my percentage between 0 and 100% power. Will then tell me how far between basically frames 0 and 1 I want to set the animation before I play it for the shoot. So even though there's only one frame in this, I can interpolate between that one frame difference theoretically. So let's start doing that. Let's start investigating that. So I'm going to update this prefab, just put it back down to 0 and apply the changes I've made. Delete that off, and let's just save the project. Oh, these clouds are a nightmare. What I might do is, maybe I'll just turn off the cloud layer. Do I have a cloud layer? Nope. Let's get one. Let's find this cloud prefab and change its layer. Background. Okay, it's probably the only background thing. So if I turn off the background layer, I might just delete that cloud layer then. Background layer will do. Alright, now I don't have those bloody clouds in the way to click on. Can't accidentally expand this game object and make my hierarchy unmanageable. So here's our new and improved ballista, complete with animations. Just a couple of things. What I'll do is, for now, I'll just update this prefab, and then I'll then shift the prefab's position back to 0 later on. So what I want to do is jump onto the ballista here, turn off play automatically for the animation. Okay. Now I want to grab the weapon script, and we're going to introduce some animation, some generic sort of animations for weapons for, I guess, the power setting and the shoot animation. The trickiest thing, which I haven't mentioned yet, is I want to introduce the tilt of the ballista. So I think that would be max tilt, because that's going to go down a little bit more, and minimum tilt will probably be horizontal. So if we look at the bones here, the body bone, the body bone is the one, and you can see I can sort of tilt that forward. This part here, this stuff is skinned, so that works out well. I'm able to just rotate that and have that work. And yeah, so for efficiency's sake, this isn't the most efficient way of setting up this model for animation at this point. It's fine though. Basically, there's one skin mesh renderer for the entire thing, and the entire thing's skinned. What we can do later on for optimization is the only bits that need to be skinned are maybe these little these bits here and these arms. Everything else is only weighted to one bone. So what I can do, what Shane can do instead, is separate them out into sub-objects, only have the bits that need to be skinned, and the rest just childed to whatever bone is moving. But what that means is, for now, it doesn't really matter. I can set things up, and I'll be rotating this body bone, and even when all that's done, if that happens, and we reparent things and make things childed to the bones, I'll still be doing the exact same thing. I'll still be moving the bone, and it'll still look exactly the same, except this whole part here, for example, will be just a child of the body bone. Okay, so So the tricky bits, I don't know how this is going to work in terms of having the body bone tilted like that and doing the animation. And the animation might look a bit strange. So there's also going to be some ropes between these two, between the spindle and this this launching arm thing here. I should probably still look up the terminology for this. I keep saying I should, but I haven't. So that will look maybe a bit strange as well, but you've got to bear in mind, I guess, that we'll be out in this angle when we're setting the tilt and power, so we can probably get away with a fair bit. The other thing is that the spindles turn as part of the reload animation, which is basically the animation where this is coming back. So when we're changing the power setting, the reload animation will be getting played to some level, moved back and forth. And what that means is the spindle will be turning, but I don't think, since we'll be able to go like this really quickly and have it go really fast between those two extremes of min and max power, the spindle is going to be going crazy one way or the other. I don't think we can have the dwarfs here animating and keeping up with it. So from this angle, doesn't matter. Maybe we'll just have a bit of an animation of them doing something. If you could see me moving my arms in real life right now, you would understand what I mean. But just, you know, just doing a roundhouse, doing a sort of a Mr. Miyagi wax on, wax off sort of something towards the spindle, looking like they're using it, looking like they're moving it, but actually, yeah, not. Otherwise, if they had to keep up with the speed it's going to go, it wouldn't even be realistic. So, okay. It might be worth testing out this whole tilt thing first, but I might just first just throw in the code and try and get something happening for the shoot animation, at least. So this is getting a bit messy. I might just start making the change to this one, incorporating all fields and methods together. Okay. Alright, so what I'm going to do is throw in some animation stuff. Alright, and as I mentioned in a previous video, I normally like to use strings for animation references, animation clip references. So animation shoot. You might be able to hear the clicking of my keyboard, and if it's annoyingly loud, then I apologise. I did get a mechanical keyboard, as I mentioned, and as one of my one of you guys who watches the show, it's not really a show, is it? Someone who watched whatever video I mentioned that in recommended I get one. Let me just see where that was. Maybe episode 8. Yep. Yeah, okay. OCID 2009, OCID 2K9. Yeah, he recommended getting the mechanical keyboard, as I said, and I did. I just picked up. I was actually just desperate on the weekend and couldn't live with this shift key not working on my Logitech keyboard, and I just went to the nearest shop that would have a mechanical keyboard, and they didn't have a big range. I picked up a Razer Black Widow. I like it, but it's also very, very loud, so I mean, yeah, so far so good. But and then Razer do have a Black Widow range, a new one, a Black Widow Stealth range, which are apparently much more silent. So that's probably might have been a wiser decision. But the clicking's growing on me, to be honest. I kind of enjoy it. Okay, so what I need to introduce now is I've got the animation references, but I need to be able to tell, say for the power, how what time, and also for the shoot. Yeah, okay, so let's do it this way. So min, okay, animation shoot min power time, and this is going to be a normalized time. So what this is for, first for the power, I'm going to set up what time in the animation, normalized time, the min power is and what time the max power is. So the max power typically going to be, or at least for the ballista, is 1 in the power animation, which is the reload animation, and for the shooting it'll be 0 because that's starting from the max point. So the min point is going to be somewhere else. So now I've got to figure out what that point is. So let's go to our ballista. Let's start putting some stuff in. So shoot. Let's check those names again. Shoot and reload. Straightforward. Shoot. This is going to be something like something. Reload. Okay. So if we go to our ballista, go to our animation window. No simple way really of seeing time. Yeah, this is showing time, but it's showing regular time, not normalized time. I need to see. So the animation goes for, so 16 seconds, I guess. Oh, 5, 10, 15, 16 frames. Right, so 16 frames. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, okay. I had to count that for some reason. That's got the little 16 frames, and I'm after the frame. So that's going to be it, and that makes sense to make that my my minimum, I guess. Yeah, I mean, I guess that makes sense. So 1 over 16 is 0.0625. So that should be my normalized time for, what am I looking at? Shooting min power. So what did I say that was? Calculator. 0.0625. Okay, and now for the reload. So that's 0, and let's again see a bring up some curves. So this will show, this window, the animation window, shows the curves. I don't know if I've talked about this yet, but yeah, curves are whatever selected. So in this case I've selected the base bone, so I can actually see the curves of the animation, and you can see there, that's the end of it. That's the point where, yep, it clicks into its last final position. So that's normalized time of 1. And just so for any non-programmers out there, or normalized time in animation states in Unity is basically, like most things normalized, how all things, 0 to 1. So basically, if the animation is 26 seconds long, when it's at 26 seconds into the animation, that's normalized time of 1. That's so. And if you say set it to normalized time 0.5, that will be 13 seconds. So it's basically like a percentage from 0 to 1 progression of the animation. So what are we at here? So we got 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, nope, 100. So 30 frames a second, so we were seeing the seconds up here. It hits 30 frames and that's 1 second, 60 frames 2 seconds, 90 frames 3 seconds, and there's where are we at? 110, 111, 112. So 3.22, well, 3 seconds there. And where we got to figure out. This is kind of going to be a bit tricky actually. I don't know the best way to do this. Maybe if I look at the launcher bone, which I believe is this, yeah, that guy. So I'm going back to there. So if I look at either, yeah, so either the inspector, I can see in the transform component, I can see its position at this frame, and then I can also see it in here. So what I guess I'm interested in is its Z position. So negative 2.386722. The chances of getting that in a frame exactly are pretty slim, but if it's close enough, that should be fine. So negative 2.4 or so. So that's what we're going to look for in the reload animation, that point. Okay, 2.38 I think is going to be pretty close. That's probably, you might be able to see the difference. So now we just got to figure out where on the animation that is. So that's 30 frames there, and that will be 50 frames. So it's 49 frames into it. The other way. 49 frames into the animation, which, how long did we say it was? 60, 90, 100, 110, 112. So 112 frames long. Let's write these down in case I start talking about something and forget them. And which one is the one we're after? The 2.38, which we said was 49. So 30, 40, 49. Which is apparently 0.375. 0.4375. So I'll drop that in, and we'll start writing the code around this to see if we can get it looking right. So that's the min power time in this, so 0.4375. Alright, apply that to the prefab. Now, I still don't want to do, I mean I do want to, but I don't want to do it this video, the pull back controls. So I'm still going to leave the sliders. So what I've got now going to introduce is when I set the power on this thing, I need to call some sort of method on it to set the power. So the actual script sorry, the actual script where I'm doing it is, it's all happening here by the look of it. Select the weapon.shot force and x-axis angle. But shot force is the one we care about. So I'm just setting a float currently. What I might do is make a property for this. Get return shot force set. It's going to set shot force to whatever value is given. but it's also going to call set power animation. So we'll drop this down the bottom. Still getting used to this keyboard. Set power animation, say animation power. If that equals nothing, return. So if we haven't actually set up an animation for it, then don't bother trying to do anything. We also need to set up the animation component for our weapon. So we'll just do that above these. There. Whoop. Jump back out to our jump back there. I'm just mumbling a lot. Okay, so we have a reference to the animation component, and what we're going to do is go animation power dot normalized time is equal to work between animation power min, animation power max by shot force, and that'll do it. But what we also need to do up here now, awake function, and I'll just have a quick detour, very short, very quick, that's why I said it 3 times. Quick detour over to, so this is the Unity 3D blog, so you can get to it through the company blog link, or blogs.unity3d.com. Lots of great stuff on here, you should check it out regularly. The latest London Unity user group videos, which are always great to watch. This one by Richard Fine, who I really enjoyed his other one he did a little while ago about managing or handling large projects in Unity. That he was tackling. He seems to always tackle a lot of the same stuff I do, and does a lot of stuff in the similar sort of way I do to me. So I always enjoy his stuff, and his talk here on initialization was, it's nothing new that, not to me, that I don't know, but it really just sort of enforced my mind. Maybe I should start thinking about which methods I use to do certain things, to allow for what isn't something I've typically done, but because it typically won't work with a lot of the code that's written. But it probably is worth trying to achieve. You can actually, in Unity, you can modify scripts at runtime and have them not stuff up the game. You can modify a script and have it while it's playing, and have that script recompile and have everything just sort of keep going. What happens is certain methods are and aren't called at runtime. So awake isn't called, for example. So and it serializes the objects with that script on it, and then deserializes them, and anything that's private doesn't get serialized, obviously. So what that means is, if you set up a private variable that's required, such as this transform is a good example. So I set up this transform here and in awake, but awake won't be called when that object is recompiled, or that component's recompiled while the game's running. So this transform will then be null, and then when I try to access it in some script somewhere, it's going to not work. So instead, I should use a method like onEnable, which is called when the script is recompiled while it's playing, and that way I can, well, this transform will be set, and then I won't have any errors, null reference exceptions. So I might start slowly transitioning over to that. It's probably one of those things where you really need to just run your game and start making changes to each script and see what happens, and then fix things accordingly if you haven't been taking it into account the entire time. And it's probably hard to test every time you do something, so it probably depends on, I wouldn't bother trying to do it if you aren't going to change scripts at runtime, which I typically don't do, but I might just start coding with that in mind. Because I don't want to sell stuff on the asset store that doesn't mesh with people's projects if they are trying to do that sort of thing. I don't want to make anything that frustrates people. So something to keep in mind. Okay, so what was I doing before I started ranting? What I was doing was trying to. I'm just gonna stick to awake for now. I'll make a method. So set up animation states. Do it down here. So what this method is going to do is it'll do this, but instead it'll see if that's not set, and it will say and animation components. Okay, if that's not null, and we've set up the animation power reference, and that clip, what state exists in the component. So this is how you can access animation states in an animation component, like it's sort of an array, but you give it the name, and this will return null if it doesn't exist. You can't find it. So if I get to this point into this if statement, I know that this is all good. What I want to do is go enabled equals true. I want to set weight to 1. I want to set sorry, I want to set the blend mode. Well, let me think. I'm only going to have I'll leave blend mode as non-additive, and I'll handle this a bit differently. And I'll set normalized time to 0, which no, I won't do that either. No, I know what I want to do. I want to set speed to 0. Okay. So basically, this will enable it. Set its weight to 1. It'll sit on the first frame, not moving. So why do I want to do that? Basically, I want to do that so that I can move this slider back and forth, have it be enabled, have the weight be 1, and just set its position without it playing at all. So the speed 0 and it being enabled and its weight being on, it'll fully influence the bones based on whatever time it's set to, but I don't have to worry about it playing through and finishing or anything like that. Okay. So there it is, doing something. Your guess is as good as mine as what the hell's going on. What's that? That's power, isn't it? And that's angle. So we can see here our power is not currently doing anything that resembles working. First off, I know that I didn't change this to our property, so let's start with that. Okay, so there you can see it sort of doing its thing. As I raise the power all the way up, you can see the arms pulling back. As I pull it down to low power, you can see them moving forward. And from this distance, which, I mean, this may not be the final distance, it might go closer in to more of a this perspective, I think. Depends on the platform, obviously. This crazy widescreen is not typical, that's more typical. So yeah, you can see it doing its thing, that's pretty cool. You can see the spindles moving slightly. I like it. Let's change it to a different view. So there it is like that, minimum power. There it is like that, maximum power. So that's cool. Now we need to set it up so that when I shoot my pink bolt, apparently I have a pink bolt now, it plays the shoot animation. So weapon, shoot. Okay. Now I'm thinking ahead about how this is going to work, and what I'm thinking is I want to do a wait for shoot animation. Oh, okay. Let's do it as part of this one. Do that. And here. I'm just going to pause this for a moment. Okay. Sorry. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm sort of getting ahead of myself. Might just, well, I'll finish it off. It's wait time. And okay, so what's going to happen is I'm going to play the animation component. I'll use all of this up here again, except instead of animation power it'll be animation shoot. Yeah, actually I'll do all this. I'm going to play the shoot animation from the position that we want it to be played from. And perhaps the better way of doing this is not that, but instead I'll just wait for end of frame. Just gonna do the job. So while animation component dot is playing, animation shoot, wait. And it stopped, so we'll do that and stop the. No, it's already stopped. Okay, so instead of using animation component dot play animation shoot, which would be the typical way of playing animation, I'm just going to set the states up to do the exact same thing, but this way I can also handle setting the normalized time. So when you play an animation using a method like play or crossfade, what it's doing is basically setting the states enabled property to true, and sets the speed to 1, sets to the weight doesn't change. I think weight is set to whatever you've got it set to previously, and that's basically it just plays the animation like that. So whatever animation states are enabled, those are the ones that play. And what I mean by play is that they in the time between update and late update, when all the animations happen, it goes through the estates. All the ones are enabled. It then does the animation stuff for those in terms of stepping them forward in the timeline and applying. All the bone changes get applied based on that time, and all the skinning stuff will happen, that sort of thing. So what we want to do is just at this point in time set the shoot animation to go starting from animation shoot min power time, animation shoot max power time, and we want to stop the power animation. So this is going to be called again once the shoot's finished. So what I can do is basically just set power to false, and I might just set its weight to 0 as well, just in case anything goes wrong. Okay, that's it. And we want to obviously start this coroutine. And because we know that all this is passed, and this is the only time I'm going to call this enumerator, I don't need to bother checking everything again and having another extra if statement. I'll just know that this is all good. Animation component won't be null. Right on. So while it's playing, it'll just keep returning in this coroutine until it's finished, and then it will go back to we'll set everything up again for the power. I reckon that might work. Famous last words. I'm pretty sure I normally avoid saying something like that because it's pretty much a death sentence. I have no idea if that played an animation. I'm gonna guess it didn't because I didn't see one. I should do something about that. The distance it shoots it, and also the angle of that ballista bolt not changing. It looks a bit strange. Okay, let's see. I want the full power so I can see better see whether it's doing anything. Okay, so it's definitely not playing the shoot animation. Shoot animation is not being called by anything, I'm going to guess. I have a habit now, apparently, of in this video of writing things and then not actually implementing them, so it's no wonder they don't work. I don't integrate them into bits of code that actually need to fire them. Okay, that worked. And it looked right, obviously, being the max power you'd expect it to look fine. Bam, and then that went back to its regular power mode like we want. So if we start it from the low, that just fired there. That seemed to be fine. Let's have a closer look. I'm going to the project settings, time settings, and drop timescale down to say 0.05, so 1/20th of regular speed. And really wish I'd done that at a different point in time, but doesn't really matter. I can shoot and pause for a moment, look in the scene view. Did not really go that well, but alright, so now you can see it's doing a shoot and all is well. And what if we try from a low power? There we go, it's just advancing from that point. So that looks like it's going to be pretty spot on. So I'm happy with that. Let's do something about that ballista bolt quickly. Missing a couple of materials, so I deleted them. Never fear, we have fancy new materials ready to go. Okay. Alright, so that's that. It seems to be working fine, and we can reuse that system, hopefully verbatim, for the other weapons we have, catapults, trebuchets. I mean, theoretically, I can't imagine I'll need too much more going on there, but they'll each have their own probably differences in the tilt. So let me introduce now the tilt aspect, articulation of the ballista. So I'm going to need to give it. Well, let's actually think about maybe handling future weapons in a generic sort of way. So I'm just going to put in another little class up top here called weapon tilt. That'll do. Weapon tilt. And tilt bone. How do I want to introduce the rotation? So min tilt angle, min tilt rotation, and max tilt rotation. And what I'll then do is introduce an array of these weapon tilts to my ballista. Okay, so what my idea here is, and I need to make this a serializable class. This way, say, the trebuchet might have multiple tilting points. So you might have a sack on it that tilts and is separate from something else. Yes, I did say sack. And again with the catapult and whatever other weapons we introduce, we could get multiple tilting things. So this way, it allows for more than one of these weapon tilts. In this case, I think there's going to be one for the ballista, which is the body bone. And we select the body bone. Let's have a look here. So this is max tilt, I think we can safely say. So that's basically that's 0. Y, copy Y across, and Z. So what we're going to be doing is interpolating between these two vectors, and setting the, what am I copying? Copying position instead of rotation. Whoops. 70 on the X. It's more like it. Yeah, so um, 70 on the X, so we'll be sloping between that, and for the minimum I'm going to say it's 0, and let's just check. Body bone. Nope. Oh wow, very much not 0. It's going to be. Okay, so we can't just do rotation. In fact, that's not working at all, is it? If you notice, the pivot point's not right. The pivot point is not the pivot point. So that's no good. I'll have to get Shane to change that, because that's just not going to work. So the pivot point of this body bone, yeah, we're going to need to somehow get that to be up here in the actual pivot. For now, I'll just treat it like it is, and set it to. Oh wait, hold on. Oh no, ignore me. It was a silly mistake. I had center selected, and so yep, that is that is fine. Alright, so let's see. 90. That's pretty straight. Probably. I mean, that'll have to do. What's our angles here currently? Let's have a look at what it looks like. I think we can safely put the time back to 1. Need to take that. So that looks like that angle's fine, and that angle is probably straight-ish. Let's grab this platform and yeah, get rid of that. Get rid of that. All that. Okay. I'm just making one of these other ones do it, just so we still have one of them happening and remember that it's a thing. So back to the code, and back to our. I think this is all fine now. Change that to 90. Okay, apply that. So what we're going to do is something similar to as the. I think we'll introduce another property. Make that uppercase X. Go here. Okay, and it's like we did with shot force. Do that and set set tilt. That'll do. Alright, we're going to run through each of our weapon tilt points. Tilt bone dot local rotation equals quaternion dot slurp dot Euler min. Well, let's just it's slurping. It's not really gonna make much of a difference for now. Let's just do a lerp just to make sure it all works fine. Make it run a bit quicker. None of that is anything to do with what we want. Okay. check that out in a sec. So where's that shoot happen? Or the x-axis angle, that is the angle interpolated between those 2 points, right? Yeah. Okay. So I want that to be, so I'm working between min and max by angle t equals 0. No. Alright, so how do we work this out? We've got x-axis angle, which is going to be an angle between our, where is that? Here, so in this case 0 and 25 degrees. So we know that 25 degrees is not right. It should be 20 degrees based on this. So we might as well change that. So between 0 and 20 degrees. Okay, so what I want to do is, now I don't know, in this case the min, sorry, min, in this case x is a smaller number. Just write this for a moment, then I'll check to see if it makes any sense. So it's 10 minus 0 divided by 20 minus 0. It's 0.5, so that's right. Let's see if, so it's not going to work if I need to do the min and the max. Yeah, so I mean if it was 5, that'd be the same thing. 10 minus 5 is 5, 20 minus 5 is 15, so you can see that that would then be 0.333, which is again right. But I need, so this is a good way of getting the sort of percentage of a value between two other values. You subtract the minimum from both the value that you're is the one you're trying to get figure out where it is between the two. Subtract the smaller number from that and the larger number, and divide that by that. And what we want to do is know which one the smaller number is. So I could do this slightly faster, but it's not really going to be that big of a deal. It's only going to happen, well, it's going to happen quite a lot, I guess. Well, for one weapon it's going to happen every frame, and I don't really think that 2 mins and a max is going to hurt things too much, so we'll just leave it like that for now. We can always optimize later on if we need to. Alright, and angle T is what we'll use in our lerp. So let's see. Okay, so I changed the time scale at runtime before, and that is one of those values that will remain the same. We've changed at runtime. Okay, it's a power, and there's our there's our tilt, and that's our power. So our tilt should now go to 20 degrees, so that looks like it's more in line with what we'd expect from the ballista. But you can see that nothing's happening when we do any of that. So if we go back to the ballista again, let's apply that. that's all set up correctly. Min tilt, max tilt, 90/70. Alright, so set tilt is being called by setting the x-axis angle, which is being called by game manager when we move that vertical slider angle. So it should be working, it should be running that script, but it seems like that's not doing what we want. And so the reason for that is going to be that that's happening before the animation. So what that means is this is happening in update. In this case, on GUI is calling that. So what we don't actually want any of that. We want to do if we go into here, we'll instead say private bool tilt changed was false. We'll just start off as true. And instead we're going to want to call the set tilt from late update. So what late update is good for is, as I've probably mentioned previously, stuff like procedural animation, which is, this is sort of a procedural animation or code-driven articulation of an object, and it's sort of working with the animations in a way. So what I need to do is call it in late update after the animations have run, and I'll just write this one for a. Okay, so what happens is after the updates run and all the scripts, animations happen, and all my bones will get moved around to set to whatever they're supposed to be in the animations, and therefore if I'd set the bone beforehand, it's just going to get set to the animation position, and anything else will be ignored. But by setting it here in late update, it then applies it sort of additively or after the animation, so I can shift bones around, I can scale bones or move bones, translate them after the animations have run. So the new bone position in late update will be the bone position of that current frame of animation. So what I'm doing here is when the property is called and the value is changed, I raise a flag, a bool, saying that the tilt has changed, and then when the tilt is changed, I can now say set tilt, and what I can also do, this is an optimization step, this is the wrong. Previous angle equals x-axis angle, and say so tilt change is now equal to x-axis angle is not equal to previous angle. So if it's not equal to it, that statement is true, and tilt change will be true. If they are equal, then that statement is false, and tilt change will be false. So this way, it'll only say tilt is changed when it's actually changed, which prevents me from running set tilt and doing all this stuff every frame when you're not actually moving the slider. So then I say tilt change false, so I don't do it again next frame unless it's changed. So let's see if that works now. Now that it's happening in late update. Oh, okay, so something's happening, but okay, so that's no good. Obviously, a bit of a mistake there in that optimization step I just did. Or I guess you could say, not necessarily. What I'll do is set tilt, make another one called apply tilt. So what I'm going to do is only call set tilt when it's changed, but that set tilt will just set this current tilt rotation for each of these weapon tilt points or bones. So instead of doing this part here, I'll be setting weapon tilt points current tilt rotation, and I'll then call, well, I won't call it there, but so I'm going to run through all of the weapon tilt points down here instead. Oops. And set local rotation to current tilt rotation. Okay, so what I've done this for is, so set tilt will set what the tilt needs to be, apply tilt will actually apply that tilt to the bones, and apply tilt needs to happen every single frame, because if it's not being applied every frame, like I was saying before, if I applied it one frame in late update, then yeah, okay, it's going to work, the animation will happen, and my late update run, tilt will be set, and it will then, the bone will then be at that rotation. But then the next frame, if the tilt hasn't changed, the angle hasn't changed on the weapon, this won't run. Set tilt won't run. It won't set the rotation of the bone. The bone will just be what it was set to in the animation between these two methods. But by putting on this apply tilt every single frame, I'm now forcing the bone to be a particular rotation, and that way it's always going to be, it's not going to flicker back and forth, it's always going to be forced to what I set it to. So I've made a mistake here and made that private, it needs to be public. Made another mistake, and that needs to be a quaternion. And I need to make it a quaternion. Alright, so let's see if this animation looks anything resembling right anymore. So there we go, we've got our tilt on. Shoot. Okay, something happened. That's promising. We need to sort out the physics of those that bolt, because that's not normal. That's crashed. This is the same crash we had a little while ago. And that's a bit frustrating. Basically, it seems like I haven't actually had waited for a bullet to fall and have the camera reset back to a weapon for a while. I've been doing it manually, so maybe it's something to do with that. What I'll do is very quickly test what it could be. I want to test, but just have a quick look at the code and see if we can see what might be causing it. So the level script has all the blocks. You got each weapon, 3 different weapons, which are the weapons. Yep, that's all good. So I think it's camera manager, or perhaps a game manager actually makes it happen. But there's a certain amount of time after nothing happens that the camera moves back to the weapon. So where is all that handled? Stop looking at, stop following, camera transform. So let's go to look at object. Where's that called from? So shoot calls it. Calls look at that. And what tells it to stop? See, this is a problem. This is a problem that I don't know what code is where. And that's a bit of bad design, but but it's also just the fact that I haven't been doing this enough. You know, I've had too many gaps since I've done certain things. I mean, this was all very early on, this stuff in the first couple of episodes, which was 2 months ago now. So I have a general idea of what I'm meant to be looking for, but I don't know exactly where it is. So a little bit frustrating. But again, it's also one of those things where, as the project goes on, and I have to do this a couple of times, I'll remember it more easily. So we'll look at the game manager. We've got all the blocks in the level, right? All the blocks in the level, wait for them to not be moving a certain amount. All those blocks are in here, so here it is. Check box idle, so that tells us that these chips taste awesome. Set perspective. Check for idle box. Set perspective. So one of these methods is not doing so well. So you would think that it's sitting there. So what happened? The bolt got fired. Must have been doing the check for idle blocks. I think that would have finished. It would have came into here, and we would have said set it to whatever the perspective is, which was side. Set camera to side view, and something went wrong. A full crash like that is quite frustrating. It's hard to debug for sure. And so let's just try to see if we can check out this animation. It seems to be fine. So if I go back to the side view by myself, any of these views, that's all good. Shoot there, go back to regular view, that's fine. Okay, just leave it. It's going to crash. No. Alright, that's even more frustrating. If it is random, then that's going to be painful. But we'll leave that one for another day. That'll be a fun episode, I'm sure. And this is working quite well now. This ballista is doing what we need it to do. We can change the tilt, and you can see it moving. We can change the power. You can see it doing its thing. Come in here, and we can just see it ready to fire. And I need to be able to shoot from this angle. I've only got it so you can shoot from this perspective at the moment, which is a mistake. I think it's kind of cool to just get all that set up. Like, yeah, that's cool. It's cool. It's whoop. Yeah, get that going. Feels all good. And then get down here and shoot from this perspective. One thing I just noticed then, you can see down the bottom here, as I tilt, is it just tilt? This might be tilt. Anyway, I rotate in the y-axis, left and right. These little dwarves are gonna get destroyed. So let's see, get in there. Little dwarf man is now quite uncomfortably dead. So I'm going to need to take into account especially this is probably smaller than a lot of like the trebuchet and catapult. Potentially have quite large overall sort of space they'll occupy. You can imagine, based on this thing's angles, yeah, it looks like it occupies this sort of triangle shape, but once you start rotating, it's always going to be some sort of circle ultimately, if you can rotate it all the way around 360 degrees. I've got limits on it, but I need to take into account when I place little props around here, how much room this is going to take up. And I also need to make my little men move in accordance with it. So what I'll have to do AI wise is put in little nodes where I want them to stand, any guys that need to be standing in some relative position to the weapon, and have these nodes be attached to the weapon object, rotate with it, and have the little guys move towards those nodes fast enough to avoid being squished. One last thing, I suppose, while I just think of it, my dwarf man. Shane's, I believe, added another animation to him, so let's. Well, actually, no, let's leave that for next episode, and maybe I'll actually do that that next step of those little AI nodes, and also do this thing. I'd really like to just get this platform here to the point of being pretty solid. Get some grass on it, maybe throw in a rock or two. Get the bolt looking nice. All these animations are working pretty well now. The articulation's pretty good. So get these guys moving around. Get some guys wandering around. Get that looking like a bit of a vertical slice platform there, and then start tweaking that till it feels really good and is fun to play with, and then we can start making the next weapons based on what we've learnt from this one. It's always a good idea, I feel, to do that, sort of get one thing built to a nice polished state and feeling good before you go and start making every little bit, all little bits and pieces of your game. So I think that'll do it for this video. Definitely across the 20-hour mark now with these videos, which is great. Bit just now. It's when I say it's great, it's only because 20 sounds like a big number, but in reality, when you think about the fact that every one of those minutes is a minute, or all the minutes that I spent working on this game, and that I've been doing this for over a couple of months now, that's pretty pathetic. That's it's less than 10 hours a month. Well, I'm not sure exactly when I started, but I'd say it's a bit under 10 hours a month, and that's no good. That's really not very good. Getting to the point now where really need to start putting in a lot more hours. But we have another couple of other projects, right? We have one game which I don't want to talk about yet, which is going to happen after this project. Something we're sort of looking forward to, and something that I think will be pretty special, pretty big. Sort of our first big project. We have another project which is more for iPhone and Android devices. It's been sitting at a prototype / alpha level for, the prototype was built about 3 years ago, and it's been sitting at an alpha version for maybe 4-5 months. Almost 5 months. And what that means is lazy, very lazy. So what we're going to do is we're looking at that alpha, and it's pretty cool. It works on PC. Built it for Unity Flash. with all sorts of cool doodads. It works on Android, iPhone. It's all ready to go, and it's a pretty cool game. It's got some pretty not innovative, but it's got like a level editor, very intuitive, great for sharing, very social game in that regard, and it's a lot of fun. And we're just sort of at the point where we've got us up making levels, polishing up the art, just polishing up the whole overall experience, putting it together, making the full game out of it. We have quite a decent, alpha at this point in time. It operates fine, and and it's going to work quite well. So now we're at the point where we need to start dedicating time towards that. But I'm not saying at all that I'm going to spend less time on Every Semicolon. My intention is to spend actually much more time on Every Semicolon as well in the coming weeks, months. But this other game, we're starting to consider. We're Australian. We can't use Kickstarter. There are alternatives out there. Indiegogo being, I believe, the most popular alternative for international people. So we're starting to consider maybe going that route, and putting together a campaign to just get something going for this other game, because it's if we get some money behind it, if we get some interest, and we know that maybe it's not going to be a waste of our time, which we have to, and also there's a decent chance that the work I've been doing for a while now, full time company I've been at, might be finishing up in this sort of industry. Hopefully not, but you never know. It's always one of those things where things are looking down for a little bit, and then they come up and down and up, and it's a bit of a roller coaster that one of these days I feel like it's just gonna end. So that day could be very soon. You never know, and I'd really like to take that as an opportunity to do this full time forever, and a bit of funding would be it's what needs to happen for that sort of thing to take place. So what we're going to do is we're going to put this game probably on Indiegogo, and not this game, but the other game I'm talking about, Viking Smash it's called actually, 2D side scroller platformer thing. Chuck that in Indiegogo with the campaign, and not ask for a whole lot, but just enough to sort of fund our development of the rest of the levels, get it onto all the things, all the different platforms, get an Android Pro license and that sort of thing. So I'll I don't want to talk too much about other stuff besides this development in these videos, but I'll mention that if it happens, the campaign, and provide a link to it in the videos, and I really appreciate any support, but we'll see if that happens. That's still in the cards. For now, this game's starting to kick ass. I mean, it's very early days still, and there's still not a whole lot in it, but I just like the art style. I like what we've got going on here. These guys are fairly simple dwarves. We're going to have variations of these guys, but we've been talking, Shane and I, about what's going to happen with the other weapons and other dwarves. What we're thinking is we're going to have different types of dwarves for different weapons, and this guy's a fairly he's a fairly generic looking standard dwarf, which you definitely need in this sort of game. This is a typical dwarf man, but we can get a little bit nuts. We can get a little bit crazy. We're thinking, who knows? Steampunk dwarves, or little wizard dwarves, or older dwarves, and just totally different dwarves from different factions, different parts of the world. Guys that look like they're unrelated, besides the fact that they've got beards and are short, and probably fat. So, and then their weapon designs will suit accordingly. So this is just a little taste. This is just a sample of what's to come. I'm thinking this game's going to be pretty badass. You come over here and you got like steampunk stuff going on, little dudes with chrome armor and crazy get-ups and beard styles and hairstyles, and wearing goggles, and steam coming off this thing. And you come over here and you got some guys, maybe a little wizard dwarf. I don't know, wizard, maybe magic is a bit out of place, but maybe not. Maybe magic will work well, and that's another way we can put in a different type of weapon. Magic dwarves aren't a very common thing, so that could work out pretty cool. And have elder dwarves who are, working on the trebuchet or something like that, and or more old school contraption. Yeah, I'm pretty excited about the prospects here, and I'd love to get some. Also, anyone who's got any thoughts on dwarf styles and weapon styles and that sort of stuff, or find some concepts out there, find some images. Send us them our way through the YouTube comments or the Unity 3D thread, southeastgames.com, the gamedev.net journal. And yeah, so hopefully I'm planning on putting an alpha of this out. Hopefully after another 2 or 3 videos, it'll be at the point where there's a playable level, and we'll chuck it up and let people play it and start giving some feedback, and we can start incorporating that, and that'll be probably the next stage of videos after this first initial vertical slice of the ballista mechanic and a fortress that doesn't suck. So thanks for watching. Dragged on for a little bit at the end there. I'm sorry about that. I just like to didn't talk too much in this episode about stuff I wasn't doing. So I've always got something to say about Southeast Games and where I want to go with this stuff and game development. So I appreciate you listening to me rant for a moment. Alright, so hopefully not too long before the next episode. I'd really like to get these out faster, and I know that anyone who's actually interested in these videos, and there are some of you out there watching them, I'm sure you'd appreciate them more often, so I'll try and achieve that. And I think this was episode 13, so episode 14 hopefully coming very soon. Thanks.